Horror anime is tricky. Owing to the inherently bright and cartoony look you get in most series, I don't think I've ever seen one that actually was able to scare me. Like, I tried to watch Shiki a while back, and I just couldn't take any of the attempts at creepiness seriously when everyone looked like this. The most infamous example is the Junji Ito collection, where the animators just couldn't pull off translating the eeriness of the manga to animation. Now, granted, that was due to cheapness and incompetence rather than the aesthetic being too anime-y, per se, but you get my point. It's a mix of animation not translating the fear factor as much as something filmed under a realistic lens, aesthetics, and so on. Anime can be creepy, for sure, but I've yet to see a horror one that spooked me in the same way as a few live-action projects have. And that is still true as of this video, but the subject I'm covering today is one of the few horror anime that has really managed to stick with me. One that may not be considered downright scary, but still contains one of the best atmospheres I've seen in an old school OVA, and some decently creepy imagery to boot. I'm talking about Blood Rain: Curse of the Yoma. Immediately with this intro, Curse of the Yoma had me intrigued. Brought to us by JC Staff and released in 1989, this one is a two-parter based on a manga by Kei Kusunoki of Ogre Slayer fame, which of course I can't fucking read. Oh, never mind, I found it. I did read the manga in preparation for this video, and while it won't be a one-for-one comparison, there will certainly be comparisons to be made. But before I get into all of that, what's this one even about? The basic premise is that a terrible war has ravaged feudal Japan, giving rise to Yoma, demons that manifest in times of violence and misery, and they're an actual thing in Japanese mythology. The OVA opens in the wake of a battle where the Takeda clan are seeing to their dead. We meet our two primary characters, Hikage and Muro, who are childhood friends and Takeda ninjas. Muro starts acting weird out of nowhere and ends up almost killing Hikage, then absconds from the scene after scarring his buddy's eye. Turns out Muro has deserted and is at risk of revealing the clan's leader got iced by a Yoma. So Hikage heads out to find Muro, and also to learn just what the hell is going on with him. In the first part, this leads him to an oddly idealistic village where nothing is as it seems. And from there it evolves into a quest where monsters will be slain, and secrets will be revealed. Right from those opening sunset shots over the grisly battlefield, Curse of the Yoma displays its primary strength: atmosphere. Not to say the story is bad, it's got its flaws, but I do like it. However, I would say the art direction is the best part by far. It's got these environments that can be pretty yet eerie. The director, Takashi Yano, has quite the body of work behind him. Everything from storyboards for Death Note, to a lot of more upbeat shows that might not clue you in on how effective at horror he is. A lot of the backgrounds are nature scenes, but there's a gloominess that hangs over the entire OVA. The color palette can range from dull to vivid, but it all flows together seamlessly. Set backgrounds are often very lurid, dominated by one color. There's some very nice sunset shots in particular. It's plain by day, but usually takes on this otherworldly feel at night. Whenever the protagonists enter an evil place or into the presence of some demon, it might warp reality and start twisting the world about. Or the trees will just have creepy faces embedded into them anyway. The whole anime has a weirdly dreamlike quality to it. Some backgrounds I'm pretty sure are watercolor, which look very nice, but it also adds to that vibe. Again, I find myself oddly captivated by the feel of the whole thing. I've been playing a lot of Silent Hill recently, so I do have it on the brain, but Blood Rain did remind me of it a little, where the environment itself feels like a malevolent force half the time, and you can never quite tell what the fuck is gonna pop out. Oh shit! We barely even see any civilization that's not some kind of ghost village or ruin. The world feels empty in a sort of cursed way. A key aspect of that feel is the music by Hiroa Watanabe. who's done sporadic work here and there. Aside from this one though, his discography seems pretty niche. A shame considering his work here coupled with the look of the OVA is a big part of why Blood Rain drew me in so quickly. You have the creepy Yoma counting song that Hokage hears when he first approaches the village, which is one of my favorites. The only one that's a bit out of place is the ending theme. It's a bit too upbeat to follow up the events that just transpired, but it's still not a bad song. In fact, I like it. Even the more action-y tracks don't sound too over the top as to distract from the darker tone, and I'd say it's about the same with the action itself. It's certainly over the top in that anime way, but it never crosses the line into silly. And also, ninjas are just cool, man. It's also a rare case where I'd say the adaptation has stronger art direction than the manga. The art in the manga isn't bad by any means. I mean, I sure as fuck can't draw that well. It's just a little less detailed and more traditionally manga-esque, and that stylization doesn't work for me quite as well in conveying the more unnerving visuals. Take, for example, the creepy old monk early in the story. In the manga, he looks a little decrepit, but in the OVA, he's all crusty like a living mummy, and his eyes are always in shadow. The trade-off is that the characters and storylines have more time to develop in the manga, since while both are short, the OVA is certainly compressing some events. The animation itself, which all this is shown through, is also good, and it's great at creating memorable set pieces and imagery. There's also some good editing where we'll get flashes of what's on Hokage's mind. Sadly, this one has not gotten a high-def release, and most of the rips you can find online are in pretty poor quality. It can add to the eeriness for what it is, but I really hope this one can get a Blu-ray release someday. But that's about as likely as Proto Men Act 3 happening. Oh wait, the writer for this one is Sho Aikawa, a creative whose work I'm becoming much more familiar with as I delve deeper into the OVA scene. He wrote Genocyber, which is one of my favorites, as well as Hades' Project Zero Rhymer, and the Violence Jack OVA, among other things. I've noticed that he often starts strong, but his writing tends to get overstuffed and unevenly paced as it goes on. Now, story-wise, many of the twists he presents are legitimately effective, and he did improve some things from the manga, but I'll be the first to admit that Hokage as an individual is somewhat flat. He's a fairly standard sullen and contemplative warrior, who's too tied up with the battle inside himself to be all that talkative. You know, Ashitaka from Princess Mononoke, Guts from Berserk, Norgol from Headlopper. Also, finish the fucking comic, Andrew, please. I can't keep having shit I love end on cliffhangers. He isn't nearly as well developed as those ones I listed, but I was invested enough since I also wanted answers. And, you know, at least he isn't unlikable. Well, at least when he's not around women. You can relate to him through being invested in that same mystery, and his quest for answers gave him a lot more intrigue than he'd have otherwise. The OVA kicks off throwing you right into the scene of Moreau going nuts, and it puts you in a similar mental state as Hokage, chiefly wondering, what the fuck just happened? It's still a solid motivation, but man, they must have really had fun running in this field, since it's all these two think of regarding their friendship. This is one thing that the manga absolutely does better, and while he can be a wee bit goofy at times, which I don't like as much as the more sullen take here for the sake of tone, I can't deny it did make him more engaging in the long run when it comes to that version. He also has more agency in the manga, since he goes rogue to pursue Moreau rather than being sent off to find him. I do think the writing becomes weaker in the second half. The reason for this is that the first episode is slower paced, only covering the first chapter, whereas the remaining ones all got truncated into the next part. Now, despite this, it's not as big a disaster as it could have been, but it sure does show at points. The first part with the village is excellent. They build up the mystery and creepiness of the place very effectively. Aya here is both an example of some of the writing strengths and its weaknesses. In the first episode, she's the initial one Hikage encounters at the village. Everything is off in this place. The inhabitants are unnervingly happy, while all of this spooky shit happens around them. People are disappearing and no one seems to care. The twist about the village is that the waterfall nearby is where multiple people have come to take their own lives. But the old monk is really a Yoma harvesting their souls, and he does this with a spell that makes them forget their past lives, which is why everyone is so oddly cheerful and unworried. Hikage kills the Yoma monk, which removes said spell, but when Aya remembers the scar on her face, she can't live with it. And you know, they weren't super close or anything, but she was definitely a kind-hearted person, and you feel for Hikage when he has to drag her fucking corpse out of the lake. Especially since he knows him killing the Yoma is part of the reason this happened. But then the second part does something kind of weird. She comes back, but not really. I don't know if it's supposed to be a reincarnation, but it opens with a ninja named Aya being pursued by her clan, claiming she killed their leader. She denies it, but we never really get any context about this, so I don't know what the deal with any of that really was. At least it led to some cool action, but the rest of her character in this part is really rushed too. She starts following Hikage after he saves her, which is all well and good, but then things start getting kinda dumb.
Now what's going on? Look at this!
She ends up meeting a spirit of a woman named Katone who was murdered by her lover, and she surmises that Aya is in love with Hikage, which... how long have you known this guy? I mean, love is just a bit of a strong word, they've barely interacted. I think want to bang would be a more accurate term, but that's just me. I don't hate it, but it feels like it comes out of left field. And what's even worse is she doesn't do much. Every time it seemed like she was not going to be the damsel in distress, she just got her ass kicked like she's Parn from Lodos War. Although where her character leads is certainly interesting, but that can wait for the ending. The manga shines here as well. We get more time showing Aya 2 and Hikage building their relationship, and she actually gets to be more proactive in terms of fighting back against the Yoma. Hikage is also way less of a dick to her in the manga. In the show, he comes off as a bit overly critical of her, when she's really a kind soul trying to help to the best of her ability, if not a bit overdramatic at times.
Are you serious?
Where the story and twists are most effective are with Moreau. Turns out, he's basically the Antichrist, the king of the Yoma, Kikuga no Miko. He didn't have a human mother or father. He was a boy spat out by the earth that the Takeda clan took in, not knowing that one day his true self would awaken. He kicked this off by trying to shed his humanity, killing his love, and then trying to kill Hikage as we see in the opening. Or so it seemed, I'll get to that. And the scene revealing what he's become is actually really fucking good. Up to this point, we haven't even heard him speak. He's always this mysterious presence in the background. So when Hikage opens up his weird fleshy nursing chamber and sees this... It's effective. Again, there are moments I thought were creepy, and this is one of them. It's a genuinely icky shot that stayed in my head. He still looks human, but you can see in his eyes there is nothing of the sort left. Well, at least it sure doesn't seem that way. The second part follows up on this discovery 2 years later with Moreau influencing the Takeda clan, so he can feed off their war's resulting bloodshed. He even forces Hokage to fight one of his old buddies from the clan, Kazami, which was an okay moment. Would have been better if we actually had more of the guy beforehand. But despite being about as evil as it gets, he still clearly cares about Hokage to an extent. Hell, he even says so, claiming he intentionally spared him at the beginning, since he wanted him to become powerful enough to transform into a Yoma and join him. I also really like this little scene of him in the cave with the snake Yoma, with them calmly discussing how he's going to turn the world into a living hell amid this darkly tranquil area. Moreau is also an aspect where I think the OVA handles it better. In the manga, you actually see him interacting with people in the Spider Monk's village, and there's this more convoluted explanation that the Yoma's curse being lifted from him after going there is what fully awakened his other persona. Personally, I prefer where he's never interacted with directly until you see his demonic nature. Hell, you don't even get that awesome reveal in the manga. By the way, before I go on, I just gotta say, the Yoma are sick. They mostly appear in animal forms, but they're always twisted into a more monstrous shape. I like the creepy spider monks in the first episode, but part 2 has an epic 3-way fight with a giant snake straight out of Sekiro, this crazy butterfly lady, and a living tree, which is a badass sequence. One of my favorite designs though is the sea demon, Majumi no Miko. He looks like a fairly normal horse save the red eyes, but the way he's animated gives him a really unnerving and uncanny quality. The way he comes out of the sea and just starts licking this corpse, it's unsettling, but in the best way. Like a demon possessing this form of flesh with that influence still showing through. Plus, horses are just fucking scary, man. Now, despite the OVA's issues, the ending was able to tie everything together for me. Hokage confronts Moreau, who turns into a wolf centaur by fusing with Majumi no Miko, which is metal as all get out. Oh, and Aya tries to do something and gets totaled. What a shock. The battle seems hopeless, but Hokage lands the final blow, and Moreau's human side breaks through after recalling that same damn field again. He wakes up later under the care of Aya, and it turns out getting trampled by a demon horse left a mark, the same kind of mark that the first Aya had. Now, I like the story, but it doesn't explain a ton. Like, you've got to put together what Yoma are yourself and such, but I felt like it gave me enough that I was never lost. And with things like Aya, this is a heightened reality with magic and shit anyway. It's not like you can't come up with some explanation. As such, it's the kind of thing I don't need deeply explained in the OVA itself. I like the scene where Hokage comforts her. It's like he got to save the one he couldn't before, and he can try and make sure that she won't go down a path of misery in this life. Again, if it really is a reincarnation. But there's one more bit. Turns out the spirit Kotone was Moreau's love, and he told her to run before he killed her. There was good in him fighting to the very end. With the last of her life force, she gives him the chance to live as a true human. As Hokage and Aya continue journeying, they find a dead woman by the road who's just given birth to a reincarnated Moreau. And you know, this ending sealed the deal for me. After how almost oppressively bleak the two-parter can be, it's nice to end it off with some hope. The manga's ending by comparison ain't bad, but it certainly doesn't feel as epic and personal. Moreau doesn't have that moment where his human side breaks through. Blood Rain is one of my new favorite OVAs after going through it for this video. In fact, I rewatched it again while writing this. I've stated its flaws, but overall this is a captivating, short and sweet little series. It's got characters who are at the very least interesting, even if they could have been developed more, and the main story of Hokage and Moreau being friends turned enemies is handled well. Part 2 definitely has some points where the story drops. You can tell tell the writer may have been trying to fit in a lot more than he could handle, but it's still well paced enough in terms of suspense and action that it's engaging from beginning to end. The mythology is cool, and I've gone on long enough about the atmosphere. Even if the plot can be meh at times, I would still recommend it just for that sheer virtue. Just, skip the dub.
To betray us?
No, sir, I didn't.
Traitor!
And even though it's flawed as well, if you like the OVA, check out the manga. I can't deny it does a lot of things better, and both are worth looking into, as each brings their own pros and cons to the table. And while I don't like the atmosphere quite as much, the art in the manga can still look very nice. And if you want to try and recommend me any other good horror anime, please do so. Maybe I'll cover some more if I get enough good recommendations. Just don't have it be stuff that looks like this.